What is up, everybody? I am back with a 6th episode. I know I have not been consistent. I know that I've said this before, but it's really fucking hard. It's just hard, okay? It's hard. It's there's a lot going on all the damn time, and I'm always just like, yeah, I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And for whatever reason, como que no me pongo para hacer la cosa que yo sé que tengo que hacer. And it just feels so much easier to not do shit. So, anywho, I am back, and I thought it would be a good idea to provide you all with, an overview on the background of the podcast and the name of the podcast. So I typically use the acronym, and my Instagram handle is WYLN, WYLN, which is so fitting because there's going to be all sorts of conversations happening here, and things coming up and discussed and shared that some people might be like, oh shit, TMI, or oh hell nah bitch, what did you just say? And for that purpose, I felt like WYLN was fitting, and that was not even intentional, because bitches is gonna be wilding up in this shit. But it wasn't intentional. It was just supposed to be, when I figured, I'm like, damn, whether you like it or not, for an Instagram name, it's going to be too long. So I was like, all right, let's use an acronym. And so that's what came out. And it's just, I feel fitting. If you know me and my personality, you might agree or not. But anywho, that's besides the point. So on this episode, I thought, why not share the background on the inspiration for the name for the podcast? And so I think it would also be an opportunity to share with you all who listen and tune in and take a moment to sit with me in this space, even though I am talking to myself, and that's literally what it feels like. Y me siento un poquito rara haciéndolo, pero I feel like, again, this is just something that makes me feel good, and I hope makes you feel good in some sense, whether it's sitting and listening and just laughing at my stupidity and the things that I say, or feeling like we're in the same room, and even though we're not, it gives us a moment and a chance to connect. And that, for me, that's important, and that's a big deal, and that's a big part of why I do it, because I love getting messages after an episode has been released from people and being like, yo, I like what you said about this, or like, Marii, I don't know if I agree with this. And it just gives me an opportunity to remain connected with people that maybe I don't get to connect with or connect to in my day-to-day life. And for those of you who are listening and are like, yeah, bitch, that's me, you know who you are. And I love you for just supporting me in all my shenanigans and things that I do. And I find that people who are supporting the podcast and who listen are also supportive of Hikaro or Hikarex, however, or Hikara, depending on where you're from, however you say it, but the brand. And so that's really important for me, and I appreciate you for all that and beyond. And so, yeah, like I was saying, I want to use this episode as an opportunity to also answer questions that some people have asked, which could help give you all a better feel on what this podcast is about at the current moment in time, and maybe for the next year or so. So I'll start off with the name. Originally, I was going to go with Aunque te guste o no, which is the same thing as whether you like it or not, but it's in Spanish. So that's the only difference. And the reason why I felt it was a good name is because if you know me, I'm the type of person who speaks things how they are. And I can be a bit rough about it, not intentionally always, but I think that's just my person. So I hope people don't take that aspect of me to heart. And I feel like I'm so like brusca with my honesty that sometimes, not bruta, brusca, with my honesty that sometimes I rather lately, I think, stay quiet than to say anything at all, because it can come off a little too harsh and intense and not how I wanted it to come out, if that makes any sense. So for example, in my work setting, right, sometimes it will take me a bit longer to get a thought out, because my initial thoughts at times would probably get me fired. And I don't want to offend anyone, but my real ones know that it's not ever my intention, unless, it's blatantly obvious. So yeah, I always get that, I thought you were so mean and I thought you were such a bitch when we first met, but I realized that you're totally not. And I'm just like, nah, girl, I am that bitch. But I am also very loving and respectful and gentle with people who don't give me a reason to be otherwise. And so I think, I know that there will be an episode coming up on this, by the way, titled along the lines of Si soy perra y qué. And I think that's also an important conversation to have. And I think this is a good segue to share a bit more on the background on whether you like it or not and our purpose, I guess. So since this is my podcast and I'm the one producing it, putting it together, the content, the topics, the social media stuff, sharing my own personal experiences and or opinions, based on those experiences and maybe the experiences of people near and dear to me, I felt like I was free and at liberty to name it whatever I wanted it to be, right? So for me, it needed to be something that stood on its own, firm in this setting, in this space, because I am una Latina, I am indígena, I am a person of mixed heritage and ancestry, and I am taking up space. And not until recently, we haven't necessarily been welcomed in certain spaces, at least not in a positive setting. So like, for example, when you look at brown and black people in the media or in movies, a lot of the settings that are put out there are not in a positive manner, right? And so I want to be kind with my words here, because I don't want anybody to feel distressed or, I don't know what people's experiences are who are listening to this. So I want to be a little mindful of my words in this moment. That's how I'm feeling today. And so it's not always positive. It's not always seen as, coming from a good, quote unquote, community. And I kind of want to say, like, fuck that. I am who I am, and I am taking up space here. And whether you like it or not, I'm going to speak my shit. And whoever is on here is also going to speak theirs. So, mierda. Sorry, guys. And so for that purpose, I needed it to be something that was, again, firm in this setting. Because some of the conversations to be had will be difficult. Some of the conversations will express things that people may not agree with or like, for that matter. Some of the conversations will be taboo, especially coming from a Latin American background and culture, what have you. I want to tackle and question the things that, we've been taught to believe and have grown into as adults. And as an adult, I will say I am unlearning a shitload of things and relearning and taking the time to listen to other perspectives and really gauge what works for me in this present time, what works for me and my family, and what feels good, what feels right, what feels healthy. So, for example, gendered roles, right? And how men don't cry, los hombres no lloran, and women need to spend their time in the kitchen y atendiendo a los niños and this and that, or how you're not Latina or Latino enough if you don't speak Spanish, or how if you can't dance to music from Latin America, or if you don't visit where your parents come from often enough, then you're not cultured enough, and you don't necessarily have the right to claim Latin American identity or call yourself a Latino or Latina or Latinx or Latine, however you describe yourself. And how when you visit back home, sometimes, you get side-eyed because their expectations of what you are or were are different than the reality of who you are. How Latin American people are ignorant and we all look the same, and we're, somos uno borracho, and we do this and do that and all come from Mexico or Spain. People are so fucking ignorant that I've gotten that so many times, and it's not to insult anybody, but it just gets to a point where it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Do you only know of Spain and Mexico? And Spanish people are European. They're not even fucking Latin American. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. I used to get so frustrated at this as a kid, and I didn't understand why until I got older. But again, a whole other conversation. And I also want to bring onto the podcast the talks about sexuality or around sexuality and relationships, you know, topics that would come with conversations like that, like abortion and having the talk with your kids. It's hard conversations to have. And I'm very interested in hearing from the people around me about these conversations and their approaches and why they have a certain approach. I've always been that type of person that's just like, I'm interested in your thoughts, like share them with me. I think questions around or conversations around intimacy and sex and consent can be different for everybody. I think consent is a more obviously straightforward topic, like bitch, no means no, get the fuck out of here. But anyways, I also want to bring forward other topics that I think are important too. These topics may cause some distress and discomfort, a little unease. But again, you know, I've shared disclaimers in other episodes. Please feel free to do what you need to do to keep yourself safe, most importantly. For example, if a conversation or conversations around sexual abuse and abortion and intimacy and those sorts of things make you uneasy, this is all part of healing for some of us. This podcast is part of mine. And I know that I have been reached out to by some people that I know that have said, hey, I'd like to have the opportunity to come on your podcast and share on XYZ or such and such topic. And I think that's great. But I also need people to be aware, though, that with having guests on this, you know, podcast will come with different and varying opinions. And I will always respect the opinion of others and those on here, because I think what they share will be based on their life. And I can't tell them otherwise. I simply can listen, understand, share my own, and offer a different perspective and a safe place to have these conversations, a safe place for someone to share their piece or vent or whatever, because you never know what comes up when you're having these talks. And it may change, you know, they may come on here and say one thing, and after listening to the episode, they think, oh shit, wait, not entirely what I meant to say. I left this part out or this important piece out. Damn. And that has happened even with myself. So as a listening and fellow human, be kind, be gentle, and be humble when you're taking in the opinions and stories that guests will share on here, and even me. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share about that. Something else, actually, a question that I've gotten a few times is, why don't you share your kids on social media, and will you talk about that? Will you share a little bit about that? And yes, I will. I will most likely have my daughter's father on that episode and other episodes. You all know him as Luch, because we do have, obviously, a beautiful baby human, my baby, our daughter, who we call Beba. I have plenty of names for that mishkama, but definitely we'll share this a bit more. I've been asked a few times what the deal is with that. So I'm just like, all right, I guess I can share a little bit about that. Will I talk about my own personal experiences in relationships? Yes, definitely. I like transparency. And again, this goes back to the name for the podcast. I think we are all unique in our human lives and things we go through. And if my experiences can offer insight on a possible outcome or whatever, in however way, I am happy to do that. You know, I got two baby daddies. I'm just joking. I have one baby daddy who my son is a result of. And, you know, he and I got into each other's faces. Felt like I wanted to disappear him off the face of the earth for the longest time. And now I can only hope that he is around long enough to be there for our son and support him. And so I'll get, you know, into that a little bit more. And then with Luch, if you know us personally, you know, we've been together for quite some time. And this relationship obviously has also taught me quite a bit, even though I tease him that I'm the older one and he should respect me for it, just for simply being 3.5 years older. He should regardless, obviously, duh, but that's just me joking around with him. And yeah, I was going to say some other stuff about that, but maybe not. Maybe I'll save that for a little special guest appearance. And with relationships, I will, bring my own opinion, strong opinion sometimes. I do have very strong opinions around friendship breakups and family breakups and cutting out the toxic shit out of our lives for the better and overall well-being. And yeah, that means family. I will just say that if I can cut my daddy out of my life, then I can cut anyone out of my life. Now, that may not be something people agree with, especially in our culture. La familia es todo, right? La familia es sagrada, la familia es lo más importante que hay en la vida, yada, yada, yada. And while I think those things may be true, I also think that it depends on each individual person's actions, behaviors, towards their loved ones. I think that's important to determine how strong and true these statements are. So, yeah, I was going to say stuff about that too, but I'm going to just hold my tongue. These are just things that I think were important to mention so that people coming on here for the first time, or even people who have been listening all this time on and off, because I've been on and off, just have a better sense of what I will be sharing and things that I would love to talk about on the podcast. And so this is why whether you like it or not is a thing, because whether you like it or not, I'm going to go ahead and spew out what I feel in that moment to be fair to share and express. So if there's anything I would like for people to take away from WYLN, I'm gonna say WYLN for short for time from time to time, I think, because the acronym, so it makes sense. I want people to take away a few things. So this podcast is meant to create a safe space for people to come on here and share their experiences without judgment, without fear of what others may say or agree or disagree with. That is the number one thing for me. I think it's important to have discussions around, hey, I don't think this makes sense because this, and this, in my opinion, and maintaining a respectful approach to other people's experiences and things that they share. As long as it's not like blatantly like stupid and ignorant. Anyways, the second takeaway for me that comes to mind is that this platform is for me to explore my interests and maybe even work through some of my incomplete thought processes. I am one of those people who needs to think things over for a while, and processing a conversation can also take some time for me. I think this is also a form of therapy or maybe even self-help. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to ask somebody about that, but that's what I feel and see it as. Third, it's something that will live beyond my lifetime, I hope. When my kids want to hear my voice or want to remember their mom, my silliness, my experiences, my hardships that I will share on here, they can come back, to Spotify or Apple or wherever people listen on, or wherever it'll be available, and literally have something to remember me by. So that's a big one for me, because they will probably come up more often than not on this podcast. And connection. I mentioned earlier that this is really important for me. I honestly have had a hard time finding a place where I can connect with people on something that I might want to talk about. I have found that people who relate to it or may have even a differing opinion will oftentimes send a DM and share their thoughts. And, we live in a different world now. Times are changing right before our eyes, and it's great and bad at the same time, I guess, for different reasons. But hey, I'm deciding to roll with it. So here I am podcasting, whatever. And I feel, again, like I said earlier, it just helps maintain a form of connection with people. And I don't know, I'm just that type of bitch. I'm a people person. I love hearing from friends that I haven't maybe heard from in a while, or the random, hey girl, what's up, and catching up. It makes me so excited to know what my friends or people that I care about have been up to, and picking up almost where we left off. It's so humbling for me that people take the time out of their day to send me a message, or to share something with me, or to share their life updates on what's been going on. And that's part of the human experience, and it's so beautiful. It's something so simple but intimate, and yeah, it just keeps me connected, I think, and grounded and excited for life. Anyways, I will conclude this episode so I can continue batch recording. I have a whole ass list of episodes that I'm wanting to record, and I have the time and heart to do that now. So en este momento, I'm gonna get to it. And if you've hung out here long enough, thank you. Gracias for lending me your ears once again. Thank you for lending me your time and for tuning in. And I will see you in the next episode.